Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Bikes for Death podcast. As always, my name is Patrick, and I'm your host. And on today's episode, I'm talking with Katya Rhkmarunlina about her recent Colorado Trail race win. She finished with a time of 5 days, 1 hour, and 53 minutes, which was fast enough to get the fastest known time for the Colorado Trail. The last FKT was set by Alexandera Houchin back in 2019, so that record has been up for a little while. Prior to the Colorado Trail race, Katya came in second place to Lael at the Tour Divide, and at Colorado Trail race, the roles were reversed, and Lael finished second to Katya. So both of them will be lining up for the Arizona Trail race, and I guess we've got a little bit of a race on our hands. We'll have to see what happens. Of course, with these long events, anything can happen, so anybody could win, and that's what makes them so exciting to watch. But this time, Katya found herself at the finish line first, and it was my pleasure to talk to her about her experience both at the Colorado Trail race and at the Tour Divide. So I absolutely enjoyed talking to her. I am so excited that she was willing to come on the podcast and share her experience with us. But before we get to my chat with Katya, let's take a moment to thank the people that made today's episode possible, starting with our latest batch of patrons. And I'm excited to say that this week we do have a few new patrons. So we would like to thank Spencer Snider, Dan Perez, and Alexander Getty for all signing up to be sustaining members of the Bikes for Death podcast. Of course, we can't produce these episodes without your help. And if you enjoy seeing them pop up in your podcasting feed every week and you would like to support this work, you can find out more over at patreon.com/Bikes for Death. So we'll keep it really short and sweet and get right into my chat with Katya. But first, let's have my friend Miles Arbor kick it off with the Bikes for Death theme song.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes for death. Bikes for death. Podcast.
Then there's bike rides that some of my friends do at like 6 a.m. I'm like, I just can't do that. That's too early.
I know, I'm the same way. Unless you have to sign up for the Colorado Trail and that starts at 4 a.m., right? And then you just suffer through it.
Yeah. But at that point, I was just telling someone, it's like, it's early enough that it doesn't feel too early. Like, it's just like, it doesn't feel early. It just feels crazy.
The night before Colorado Trail, like, are you able to get any sleep at all or what?
I went to bed at 11, so no, not really. And woke up at 2.
Dang. Did you get any sleep?
I mean, I did, but I think it was like, a weird one.
Yeah. That's always my fear with, I've never done a race that starts at 4, but the ones that start at 6, I feel like, my alarm's probably going to go off around 4 a.m. and I'm just worried that I'm, not going to get much sleep, but it is what it is. I think there's a lot of people that probably don't get a lot of sleep the night before a big race. Maybe
it's good. Maybe like, I always kind of joke, I'm a queen of blowing up, and so maybe I haven't recently, but generally that's been my trajectory. So maybe starting tired is a good thing.
Blowing up, so you go out too hard, too fast, and it catches up with you.
Yeah, well, you feel good, and you're like, you go out fast, and then it's either I got my physical pain figured out more or less, like what causes it, but usually it's like at the end of the day, like my Achilles would like be totally blown up. Or I don't know, something else. I think I more or less have figured like out how to keep it at bay, but going out fast is bad for me.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that bite so many people in my own races and just across the board. You get all excited and you get in the in the competition with what everybody else is doing, and it can be hard to kind of stay in your own lane and stay in your own race. Can you elaborate on what you said that you figured out what was causing some physical discomfort?
Yeah, I mean, my joke is my Achilles heel is my Achilles heel.
That's good.
I think that's usually what goes. And like last year in CTR, I mean, I finished, but I was hiking with my like foot out of the shoe. Like it just hurt to have like anything touching my Achilles. But generally, just a saddle. Like I start with a saddle being way lower than I want to because I like power out of my saddle being high, so it feels good to have a saddle pretty high. And usually, it doesn't matter. Like if it's a day ride, like wherever, like nothing will happen. But last year, I had a dropper that was on its lowest setting, and it normally like it was all the way down, but it was still like too much actual drop. So as in the seat was high. And so, yeah, I like couldn't really do much about it. And my Achilles just started hurting, I think on day 3 pretty bad, and I couldn't do anything about it. And another thing that I started doing is bringing KT tape with me. And that's been kind of a life or game changer.
Yeah. An Achilles changer.
Achilles changer for sure. So
Do you wrap it on your ankle then?
yeah, I remember last year Liz Stampy was like texting me like, "This is how you fix your Achilles. Like, try to find some tape at Cathedral. Like, tape it this way." And then later, I like looked up how to do it because KT is better than just like athletic tape. So like how to do it better, the taping. And so I did a race before Tour Divide that was called Cross Washington, and then my Achilles started to hurt on day 2. I was just like sobbing. I was like, I can't do Tour Divide now because like this first race, like I'm already out. Like what else can I do? And then I taped it, and then I lowered my seat, and then over time it like got better.
Oh well. Well, I guess let's just kind of briefly touch on Colorado Trail. How did it react to that? Because that's a huge test on your Achilles heel.
It was good, like 0 bad pains. But I think it's the Tour Divide that like kind of helped me figure out what I need to do in terms of like not getting any physical pain, and then Colorado Trail, no issues.
Oh wow, yeah, you had 2,700 miles to figure it out, so that's a good, good opportunity to work through a lot of things, right? Well, cool. Well, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to chat with you.
I am as well.
Congratulations on a new Colorado Trail FKT. That's amazing. And a really fast time. The previous time, just for the listener and the record books, was by Alexandera Houchin in 2019, and so that record's been up for a few years, and yeah. So congratulations! What a great ride.
Thank you.
I was surprised because you and I chatted just briefly the other day, and you were saying you were feeling totally fine, or yeah, it seemed like you weren't as wasted and as much pain as I was kind of expecting. Did you experience any, like, were you in pain like the day after, and I just talked to you like 3 days after and you were fine by then, or did you just have more in the tank?
No, actually, I felt good. Well, I don't know if I had more in the tank necessarily because it was, I think, sleep limited. But once I got sleep, I felt good. Yeah, no injuries. I feel like it was a smooth run. I felt good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so the biggest limiting factor was just sleep deprivation, but your body really held up to the challenge and performed.
Yeah. Actually, the one thing that did happen, but I think it happened to a lot of us, my voice totally went away. So it was, it's kind of like a breathing issue, I guess. So I was trying to breathe out of my nose the entire time. So maybe that is a limitation too, because I was worried that if I breathe out of my mouth, my voice would just completely disappear.
Why do you need your voice during the race?
Well, I was worried that it'll like just affect my respiratory system. I was just it was getting worse and worse, and I was like, I'm not really sure what's happening. So, yeah.
So at one point you transitioned from breathing through your mouth to like just breathing through your nose, or trying to just breathe through your nose.
Yeah, which I generally try to do. But there I was like specifically trying not to go above my heart rate where like I need to like huff and puff.
Yeah. Is that intentional as a way to keep you kind of in that zone 2 heart range where you can still breathe through your nose?
Yeah. In general, I do wear a heart monitor, just watch, not like the strap. And I do try to pay attention. Like I never really want to be above like 145, 150. On the first day, like I can allow myself like a few like sprints, but I usually do look at my watch and see like, oh, like you're going a little too fast. Like it's too exciting. Like just slow down.
Yeah.
So yeah, I generally try not to get in a state where I like have to breathe too heavily.
I imagine that can be hard at 13,000 feet.
Yeah, I did train for it. I went on a 4-day trip like a week before just to
Acclimatize. Yeah, awesome. Well, before we kind of get into some of your racing accomplishments this year, I wanted to kind of go back and just learn a little bit about you and what led you up to this stage. And I don't know if you want to call it your racing career or whatever in your life, but I'd be curious to know like how you were first introduced to bike packing, like how and when you were first introduced.
Don't know if I have like a very like distinct moment necessarily. First it was road biking and then bike touring on road bikes. I moved from Michigan to California, so that was kind of the bike packing experience, just not on mountain bikes. And then I got into mountain bikes maybe 3-4 years ago. I was really reluctant because I was worried about hurting myself. But then I had a lot of fun. And then you just combine the two. I remember my first trip, I think, was Tahoe Twirl with now my partner. We just started dating and I just passed like a grad school milestone. So that was like a treat to go bikepacking. And I was really worried about that trip, but then my downhills was fine. Like nothing went wrong. I was like worried. I was like, oh, all the rocks, I'm going to fall. And I just did more and more. My first race was probably the Arizona Trail, what meant to be 800, but I only did the 300 because it just destroyed me. That was 3 years ago. And then last year I picked up more, and then this year even more. So it's kind of gradual.
Yeah, for sure. It usually is. Although I did interview, oh gosh, I'm blanking on her name. Wow. That's terrible.
It happens.
It does happen.
Glitches in brains.
Huh?
Glitches in brains.
Yeah, my brain is definitely glitching. It's still too early in the morning. This is terrible. What is her freaking name? Well, she rode 39. I don't know if you ever heard that episode, but everyone will know who I'm talking about. She's been one of my most popular episodes. But her husband passed away, and his dying wish was that she would ride the Tour Divide kind of on his behalf, and she spread his ashes along the Tour Divide. And she wasn't a bike packer or even a real cyclist, and so she only rode like 39 miles ever before like hopping on the Tour Divide. But that's pretty uncommon. Most of us work our way up there.
That is, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious about your personal background as it relates to like athletic endeavors, because, truly Tour Divide, Colorado Trail, Arizona Trail, these are some of the hardest, endurance efforts that are available to humans. Do you have a background in athletics that kind of gave you a baseline, I guess, of fitness and this idea of like taking on really hard athletic pursuits, or is this really just a new thing that you've really like ingrained in yourself?
I mean, I think stubbornness is what I have.
It's a good thing.
Also kind of slow. So yeah, I do have some background. I feel like and I always like ran a lot, and before I got into biking I just like ran a lot, and I wasn't ever good at running, but it was kind of the same endurance mindset, and I don't have like a shred of fast twitch muscles in me. Like I can't sprint, bike or run or whatever, but I can just go pretty fast pretty much forever. But I think my introduction of outside of bike packing, where like I tested myself more and got really excited, is randonneuring. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that style of riding.
I'm doing one. Yeah. So I'm doing the Ozark Randonneur. It's a new event this year. They have 120 and a 200-mile option in the Ozarks in Arkansas. So I'm doing that on September 16th, and that'll be my first one. But
awesome.
It's an event style that I think is really cool, and it's something I've been wanting to do.
Yeah, because it's a lot of people who are very friendly, but they're very hardcore, but they like don't tell you about it. They just like do really long rides. So one of like my, even to this day, like more proud accomplishments is that on my birthday, I saw that my local running had a 600K event, so like roughly 380 miles with like 30,000 feet of climbing. And I was like, wouldn't that be a good present for myself if I just do it? And I
Hmm.
showed up like totally unprepared, like didn't have enough lights, like battery. My thinking was like, if I'm having a bad time, I'll just stop somewhere, charge things, and finish whatever. But then I ended up riding with like one of the first people ahead. And you are allowed to draft in that event. So we just kind of helped each other get to the finish. And so I think my endurance comes from just like fascination of how far I can go and things seem impossible. And when you like actually complete it, it's like very amazing. And so it's maybe that adrenaline rush of like, I can't believe I did this.
Yeah.
That gets me doing those longer events.
So how long have you been, a cyclist? It sounds like you've done bike touring, you've done randoneering. How long have you been in the game, so to speak?
Yeah, maybe when I moved 6 or 7 years, that has a distinct story. I was a runner, and then in Alaska, I like tripped and fell and broke my leg. Like totally broke my leg, and then I couldn't run or walk that well. But I got into biking because my friend just gave me her like $100 Walmart bike. So yeah, that was about 7 years ago. But that was like the event where I was like, bikes are cool because I can get very far with a broken leg. And then I bought my own bike, and then next summer I biked to California, and then just continued on and on and on. So yeah, 6 or 7 years.
Wow. Do you do any running these days, or have you completely traded it in for the bike?
Occasionally, like as a training, but it's hard. It's like at most you could do 3, 4 miles without injury. The before Colorado Trail, I went on like a 8 mile run out of nowhere, and I like running up hills. It's like particularly what I'm good at, like not flats. And then my knee was hurting. It's like, well, I guess I'm not surprised. I should probably not run 8 miles out of nowhere. For Arizona Trail, I might pick up running a little more.
Yeah, yeah. I have a goal of doing. I want to do an ITT in the spring of the AZT, and I've started to incorporate. I live in Texas, so like we have no hills.
Yeah,
I just go to the gym and I put it on a 15% incline, and I
nice.
just run or walk and just do incline to really work on my Achilles heel, and it's crazy. I'll be at like 100. This blows my mind. I just recently, like 2 months ago, got a gym membership, and I started like doing this like incline, workouts, but just walking or running uphill. And I'm like, my heart rate's at like 150, 160, just walking or running uphill. And I'm
Yeah,
like, Jesus, like it's just, but
man.
I'm not conditioned for it at all, like it's just flat around here. So, yeah, I could see a lot of value. I could see a lot of value even on the Colorado Trail. I mean, that's a hiking trail. So,
Yeah. I do boulder. I mean, right now I can't boulder because I can't crimp. Like this hand I can crimp, but the other hand I can't crimp. Left left hand is like useless. But before that I was bouldering and doing well, I still do weights, but so like I do try to cross train. And I
yeah.
think it does help, especially mountain biking. Like your core is not as sore at the end of the day. Arms are not as sore. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So you did Tour Divide this year and came in second place. Was this your first Tour Divide run?
It was my first.
Oh, nice. And also like, are you? It sounds like you're doing the AZT. So you set a goal of doing the Triple Crown this year.
Yes and no. I mean, I wanted to, but there's just so much turbulence like that potentially could happen. So it was more like it would be nice to do a triple crown, but it wasn't like a set intention. It's I felt like it was okay, well, I got my job to let me do Tour Divide, which felt like once in a lifetime. So I said, well, if that goes well, I asked them like, well, can I do Colorado Trail? And they're like, no, sorry, like that's way too much time off. And I was like, okay. And then I did Tour Divide, and then it so happened that I got another job later. But I also was like, well, maybe I'll just quit my job too. And so then I quit my job to do Colorado Trail. And then the saying was kind of still similar. Like if it goes well, maybe I'll do Arizona Trail. So I never like was like, oh, I for sure will do the Triple Crown. It's more like if things go well and things align, then great.
Yeah. What was your goal with this year's Tour Divide, it being your first one? Did you have lofty goals, or was it more just like, I'm just going to go out and see what I can do?
More of the later. I think my only kind of a joke goal, but a goal was to beat my partner who did it twice. His was 22 days, and he essentially said like, if you get under 20 days, that's great. So that was my like actual goal, and then I kind of looked around other times for other women who've done it. And just like I knew I rode against Anna in Colorado Trail, so I was like, well, I could probably shoot for like around 18 days. Based on like other people who I know how they ride. So that was my like stretch goal, I guess.
Yeah. What was your finish time? I know you came in second place, but what was your actual time?
I don't know. I don't remember the hours exactly. It was like it was definitely 17 days, maybe like 8 or 9 hours. I'm not sure.
Wow. So you've had some time to reflect on that race. You came in second to Lael, with a goal of 20 and came in, a little over 17. Are you pretty stoked on your result? Like how are you feeling about that effort?
Yeah, I feel great. I do feel like I could drop a lot of time, but I think every rookie who does a ride kind of feels that way. It's just, I feel like knowing the course really helps.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm stoked. I'm not disappointed by any means. I was kind of at some point, I was like, well, maybe I should be sub 17, and I'm sure I could have made it. But I was just like, I need to sleep.
Yeah.
Like I didn't like having an all-nighter like for over 200 miles.
So, go ahead.
Oh no, that's it.
Okay. What was your, first time on the Tour Divide? What was your thoughts? Is that a course that suits you? Did you enjoy that route? What were your thoughts about it?
I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I'm more of a mountain biker, and I was worried that the stretches that you could see like the road for miles and miles would bore me, and they didn't really bore me, so that's good. I was worried about like boredom, I guess.
Yeah.
The hardest part for me was nighttime riding because of that. On a mountain bike, you're like so focused on not dying that you're not sleepy. There, you just see this like lights, and you have like 20 miles uphill. And yeah, I was just like getting really sleepy. But the course was really fun. Like the landscape changed a lot. My favorite place was Basin. I know not a lot of people love it. Yeah.
Why was that your favorite? Let's touch on that, because you're right. Especially this year, it was a cause of a lot of calamity. So yeah, why was that your favorite part?
That was my favorite part because I kind of did plan around then. So I knew that on Friday there'd be mud. Weather-wise, and I did it on Saturday, which I had been forecast. It's more or less tailwinds. I had a little bit of headwind, but mostly tailwind. And then I knew on Saturday would be Sunday would be horrible headwinds. And so I kind of like did try to get there on Saturday, which timing wise it was working out anyways. So I think I just had a good time because the ground was dry and I had a bit of tailwind, and I mean the views are really cool. I remember there's one part where the trail just kind of disappears and just like go downhill, and then you see it like miles later in the landscape. And it went by pretty fast. It just felt like I was flying through the landscape.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. That's conditions, right? I mean, whether you're going to have mud or a headwind and it's going to be miserable, or whether you're going to hit the same spot with a little bit of a tailwind and you're like, man, this is nice riding. I had this question a little bit later down on my list, but you touched on it. What do you do to entertain yourself? I mean, I think, whether you're doing 2,700 miles or 500 miles, there's going to be opportunities where your mind maybe is a little, isn't as satiated. People get tired. Boredom is common. What do you do to kind of keep yourself motivated and entertained to keep pushing?
Well, I'm actually pretty introverted, but I realized that on Tour Divide, it was really nice to run into people, like just to chat a little. I remember there's one section, I think it was right before Richmond Peak, that just like went up and down. It was really hot, and I was just really like losing my mind. And then one of the riders caught up, Brooke, and we just like had a nice chat, and lo and behold, like we're done, and we were going faster too. So I can like match someone's speed pretty well and forget about the fact that I'm like trying biking. So yeah, chatting here and there helps. And I pretty much was running into someone for all but like 2 or 3 days. So that's one thing. If I'm by myself, I listen to podcasts. Sometimes I count on base 8, just count over and over, 1 through 8.
Really? What?
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
It's not to 10, it's to 8.
Is that an OCD thing, or is there like a breathing technique I'm not aware of?
I think it's just like, it's not on purpose, but it's like maybe meditation of sorts where like I'm not thinking of anything and I'm just counting over and over.
Yeah. How long will you do that for?
20, 30 minutes.
160 episodes and I've never heard that one. That's a good one. I'm going to try that on my next. That could be the key to, these good results is just counting to 8.
Yeah, just make sure it's 8. It's not 7 or 9 or 10.
Yeah, don't fuck around with 7 or 9. You got to get right on that 8. That is super interesting. How long have you been doing that for? Like, do you just... Yeah, like
I
you just started
find myself counting. Like I don't know. I just like, I'm like, oh, what am I doing? Oh, I'm counting. I don't know why, but yeah, I'm like, okay.
That's interesting. I'm sorry. I'm a curious person, so I'm gonna dig in just a little bit more. What are you by trade? Are you like an engineering type mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did civil engineering in college, and then like in doing software-ish / sciencey things. So yeah, lots of I like computers and math and all that.
Yeah.
That's why.
I find I've commented on this before, but just this is an anecdotal reflection, I guess, but it seems like engineers, there's a large population of bikepackers that are engineers, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts. I'm not an engineer, not even close to that mindset, but like, is it the puzzle of everything that you put together that's so maybe attractive, like a part of this that's attractive to you?
Yeah, it's like methodical. Like if you do this and that, you'll get this. There's a bit of that, like kind of math. In terms of like, yeah, like in terms of how brain works, I do have to say I'm not like very mechanically inclined. I can fix bikes somewhat to like get by, but like I do not get joy out of parts or like putting the bike together. Like I like riding, so that's not really an aspect. I'm sure some other engineers like love geeking out about parts, putting the bike together, but that's not me.
What about from a planning aspect, like just planning your ride, looking at the maps, all that kind of stuff?
That's not me. Yeah. I'm
really?
a planner. I kind of just go into things like it'll work out. I mean, I do plan, like, like if it's Arizona Trail, I try to like make sure I know where water is or have at least an app that more or less I like rely on and I look at that. But for like Colorado Trail, especially if I'm familiar, like no planning. It's more like where my body takes me is where my body takes me. Maybe in the moment there's a bit of planning, like, oh, like I need to do the Cataract Ridge before noon to not get killed by lightning. But that's like in the moment. That's not like days ahead.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be very difficult to plan for a lot of variables there. So speaking to your approach a little bit more, is this approach to racing intentional? Is this just who you are as a person, and you don't want to over prepare? Some people like don't want to over prepare because they want kind of to have the more adventurous side of what they're going to be doing kind of rise to the top and not like over plan. So is there something that's kind of like dictating that approach?
No, I mean, I feel like I'm prepared enough that like I'm not going to be stranded or up to the elements. So there's that preparation. But in terms of like mapping and where I'm going to go and like just meticulous details, I like to not have a plan because to me, like plans kind of make for disappointments. It's like really hard to keep a plan. So I just do what I can or feel like, and then where I end up is where I end up.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that approach because if you plan, Uba said it pretty well on the podcast that I did with him. It's like, it's good to have a goal and something to shoot for, but like you also have to be very prepared for the fact that like things aren't going to go according to plan. And so you need to have like kind of like sub plans. At least that's his approach. It's like, so, you're never like, hopefully not disappointed, right? Because you have to go into this knowing that it's not going to go directly to plan. I haven't talked to anyone who's had a perfect run on a bike packing race yet,
I mean, my mantra a bit became as it is what it is. So when you're climbing something, you're having a bad time, you're like, well, like it'll be over. Like don't count down the miles. And I am trying not to count down the miles to the end. And I think that's why I did good on Tour Divide. You just wake up, do the thing, and like have a good time. But I think if you start counting down the days, like, oh, I still like I have 14 days till I'm done, like that's bad mental state. And I have done that before for races where you're so tired and it's so hard where you're just like, I just want it to be over. And you like look at the miles, like start calculating when you're going to be done. And of course, then you can't like keep that because you get more tired. So that becomes like a mental challenge. And I try not to do that.
Yeah. I think the better, you know, at least from my perspective, the better you can stay like just in that moment. And I go down to like, if I'm struggling and I'm thinking about, you know, too far in the future, I'll like start to look at like the rock that's right in front of my tire, you know, and just like, or the piece of like that plant that's right there, and try to bring myself back to where I'm at, you know, and yeah, it is what it is, and everybody else is doing, you know, the same thing. So, and it's what you signed up for. So
yeah. Another quote from my partner. I mean, it's not his original, but play stupid games, win stupid prizes. We all are doing this, and there are no prizes, and we signed up, so why have that time?
Yeah, the prize is what you're doing when you're out there. You know, that's a big part of it, at least for sure. What is your mindset? You said you know, essentially to keep yourself happy on the bike. You know, over the course of Tour Divide, Colorado Trail, like, what is your mindset typically? Are you enjoying it? Are you suffering? Are you in mental anguish? Like, what, you know, how are you at in your headspace when you're doing these big efforts?
I mean, it changes. So this year it's a little better. Maybe because of like once you get physical pain, that's bad, not like from tiredness. That's a little different. And then it's pretty hard to have a good mental state because yeah, you're like just worried your body's gonna like actually be permanently damaged.
Yeah,
But if I'm not having any bad physical pain, I'm generally pretty happy. Like this year, I really enjoyed. Like yeah, I didn't really have really negative times on Tour Divide or Colorado Trail. Colorado Trail was actually like really fun. Like I think I had a lot of fun in the moment. Like the descents
awesome.
were really fun. Like seeing all the lights at night was really fun. Like knowing that like other people are doing the same thing. At the end, I was very sleep deprived and kind of had like this weird out of body experience, but that was fun, even though it was there because I was tired. And Tour Divide was for me pretty sustainable. I think I slept enough consistently every day that it was a race, but it kind of felt like, you know, maybe fast packing. Again, I was tired and I was racing. I was trying not to waste time, but it felt like, well, I'm just like out of here. Like, I don't know, my job is to wake up, eat, and bike, and it doesn't hurt too bad. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know what your high point was at Tour Divide. What was your low point? Or the hardest section or part you disliked?
Low point, I mean, there's a few. So one of the low points was when I got my bottom bracket totally destroyed. Well, I had a lot of mechanicals, but the one that I really thought I would have to quit was the bottom bracket by Radiums outside of Kremling. Yeah, once I got to the highway and I could call bike shops, everyone's like, we don't have your bottom bracket. Like, it's a weird one. Like, we don't have it. And then eventually it was like, okay, well, I should ask for the bearings because it's not the bottom bracket, it's the bearings. They're like, oh, yeah, we have the bearings. Like, we have the bearing size. So then I caught the ride and it was a roller coaster. But in the moment when I was in the car and I wasn't sure getting a ride to fix it, I wasn't sure if I was going to continue or not. And that made me really sad, which meant like I was enjoying it. Because I'm sure in some other races, I would have had a moment where, like, if something broke down, I'd be like, well, at least I'm done. Like, I'm tired. Like, this is a good excuse. I did not have that feeling for Tour Divide. Like, I was generally very sad to quit. Yeah. So that was a low because I was pretty certain I would have to quit. But that worked out. In terms of physically hard, I think it was the Gila. Because it was really, really hot and there's smoky in the beginning. And I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't really know like in what way. Like my partner has done the ride and he's like, yeah, the Gila is like hard. You think you're done, but you're not done. And like just takes forever. So that's in New Mexico. And yeah, I just remember going under trees and like taking a few naps. And I was really tired and not having it anymore. I wanted to be done.
Yeah. I really like what you said about, not taking that, quote unquote opportunity with your bottom bracket to, remove yourself from the race. Cause I think, anyone who's done this kind of stuff has certainly been there, where I know, like, my mental checklist will usually go something like, is this a good enough problem that I can justify quitting? No, fuck, I got to keep going, and you're kind of having those like dialogues with yourself, and you have to keep going, and sometimes even maybe praying or wishing for, something to go wrong. So you'd have a good excuse. You're like, man, I wish I could wreck and break my collarbone right now. That would be better than, what I'm doing here. So I love that whenever, it is all about overcoming adversaries adversary. And, to have such a big mechanical and to feel that for you has to be like a great feeling to be like, yeah, I want to be in this. I want to be here. Was that spurred on by how well you were doing in the race and some goals that you had set, or was that just more of an internal thing? Like, hey, I want to be out there riding my bike. Like, what was your motivation?
I think kind of all of them. I felt good, like physically good. I felt like I was doing well. There's no one like really behind at that point, the friends I was riding with were like too far ahead. But yeah, I was like, I'm in a good place. I'm feeling good. This thing is really hard to get by this thing. Tour Divide is very hard to get time off for. So I like don't really want to try to do this again. I mean, maybe I will, but like I don't want to like be like, oh, I have to come back to finish this. And then one time, like kind of thinking back in Colorado Trail last year where I was way closer to quitting, the thought of like, well, all this preparation that went into this race, and then the thought of driving back in your car, kind of like I didn't do this, I think was like strong enough feeling that like I didn't want to quit.
Yeah.
It's like a bad feeling to return after all this time and money because something went wrong.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a great motivator. Well, cool. Let's talk about the Colorado Trail. First question, did you ride the same bike that you did with Tour Divide, or did you change it up? So
Tour Divide bike was very different. It was fully rigid drop bars. So for Colorado Trail, it was a hardtail. I last year rode a full suspension bike because that's the only bike that I had that made sense, and it had a lot of travel, so it was very heavy, very fun on downhills, but not really good for hiking. So this year I was a little worried because I didn't really have a bike. I didn't want to do Colorado Trail again knowing that my bike it's fun to do the first time and see the landscape and try, but the second time it's like, well, I'm probably going to try to do it faster, so I should have a faster bike. And it was pretty hard to find a bike. Luckily, Jackson, my partner, gave me his. It fits me. So I used this nice. I used this Kona Hanzo. He's pretty nice. He's like, you have better chances of winning things than me, because he was also doing other races that he would prefer to have a bike that I was using. But he's like, you have better chances. You take it.
Oh, so nice.
I know. And it was actually sweet. The bike rode very well downhill. And I had no mechanicals. I actually do have a local friend who helps me with bike stuff. And he's like, you could finally tell people that I'm your mechanic because no mechanicals, because my bikes are always destroyed, and it's not his fault. It's like my fault. And he's always like, don't tell me I'm your mechanic because your bikes are destroyed. Yeah. But this time nothing happened and it rode well. It was super light. I could pick it up by the bottom bracket and just run up hills.
Oh, wow. Which
I did sometimes. So it's kind of fun.
All right. 2 questions. Let's give a shout out to your mechanic for this bike alone.
Yes.
And do you know how much your bike weighed? Fully loaded.
So that's actually another thing. I never ever like count calories. Actually, well, I said that, but I did count calories this time just out of curiosity for food. But I also never count weight. Like I don't weight my parts. It's just kind of like, well, I'll try to do my best, but I don't actually put it on scale.
It doesn't really matter, right? It's like,
no idea. Yeah.
You got to take what you got to take, and you whittle it down as light as possible. And then it's like, it is what it is. Yeah. Like you said, it is what it is. So.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, who's your mechanic? Let's give him a shout out for doing
Jason
such a great.
Pierce in Oakland.
Hey, Jason. Good job. The winning FKT bike on the Colorado Trail. Nice.
Yeah, he's been helping me with bikes for like a long time. the fact that I have running bikes is probably him.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not a reflection of his mechanical abilities. Bikes over 2,700 miles. I mean, all you're going to hear about is usually carnage. It's rare. I mean, actually, Uba got to the end with no mechanicals, but I mean, it's just rare not to have anything. I mean, new tires, new bottom bracket, new chain because it got stretched out, new brakes. I mean, something is usually going to fail you over that long of a ride.
No one has on Tour Divide. No one had Victoria Mescal tires, which is like one of the more popular ones. I was like blown away. I really needed tires because I did a race before, then I biked to the start, and then so at the start of Tour Divide, I already had a plug, and like they look sad, and no one had them. And so actually, when I had the bottom bracket mechanical, there's a guy who worked at a coffee shop who also ended up working at a bike shop, and like off time, he's like, "I have a pair that I could sell you." I was like, "Thank you." I really needed tires.
Nice. Yeah. And it's good to be on a tire that you're familiar with for sure. So you did Colorado Trail last year. Was that your first time to do the Colorado Trail?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how did that one go? I don't know what you placed in that one. So how did that first?
Oh, it went horrible. I was leading, and at some point I was leading, and I was sad about it because I like wanted to rest, but I felt like I couldn't. And so I was like pushing myself harder than I should have. My bike was very heavy. It was a really horrible, like rainy year, like just rain pretty much all the time. My gear, I like showed up overconfident. I was like, oh, like I could like survive things. It'll be fine. So I didn't bring too much warm stuff, and a lot of stuff got wet. So I have a particular moment where I'm going up Fuses, which from Denver to Durango, that's just a big climb. And then you're in like really high up and remote after that. And everything is wet. I'm eating a cherry pie under a tree and just crying. And I'm eating the cherry pie just knowing that I'm going to quit and I need the warmth to like descend down somewhere. So I was like eating the food to like get warmer. Then I get to the top. It like looks miserable up top, like around 12,000. And then I got into the shelter and I was like, okay, I'm going to quit. And then some hikers came through and they were just so happy and cheery and somehow made a fire even though it was raining. And then that like turned around my mood. I was like, if they can do it, like I can do it. But by then Anna and Alexander already passed. Like I heard them. And actually it was really nice because then I felt like, okay, there's no more pressure. Like I don't have to like try to lead. And I did finish, even though like, again, I like made plans to quit. Like I knew for sure, like this is it. So it was pretty sweet to continue on. And I was slower after, and my Achilles started hurting, and I like stopped to get like coffee more, like it was more of like just survival at that point. But it was nice. Like I'm happy I finished. It wasn't horrible. It was like still like 6 days, like maybe like 12 hours or something. I'm not sure. So still not a horrible time, but going from leading to almost quitting to barely finishing. That's kind of the trajectory.
It is. I mean, the way I like to look at things is from your, the what you'll learn through that experience and how you can apply it in future endeavors, right? And like learn that you can get to your lowest place and be crying under a tree when it's raining and eating your cherry pie, planning on quitting, and then figuring a way to turn it around, stick in it, and finish it. Yeah. I think those are great experiences from an experiential learning, standpoint.
Yeah, I think it taught me not like kind of to be not so overconfident. Kind of like, again, like it is what it is. Like if you have to quit, that's fine. But like also preparation, like for all my races this year, I brought like a 10-degree quilt and a sleeping pad that's like thick. Just like if I use it, great. If I don't, whatever, at least like it gives me peace of mind because I wasn't prepared. I was like, I could survive cold and rain, like I'll be fine. And now I'm like, no, like it's not pleasant.
So is that part of what was really difficult the first time was just under equipped essentially from literally an equipment standpoint, not a physical standpoint?
Under equipped, having too heavy of a bike, and also like kind of being in the leads when I should not have been, like pushing myself harder. Like right now I probably would like, I mean, I'm competitive, but not that competitive. And so now I just mostly look at my heart rate and see how I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pushing myself.
Where did you place in last year?
Well, 12 women started. I was third, and only four of us finished. And then overall, I'm not sure. Probably like mid pack.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. When you finished Colorado Trail last year, did you think you would ever do it again?
Oh no, I distinctly remember like promising myself to never, ever, ever, please never, ever do that ever again. Like it was a very like distinct line I remember in my head. And then of course, like I didn't anticipate anyone at the end. Like I didn't know anything about the end other than like I'm doing the final descent I'm very familiar with. I was like so mad at the bike and like everything. I was like, don't ever do this again. This is horrible. And then I crossed the line and there's so many people there. Like Alexandra was there and like everyone's cheering. And I think pretty instantly, like I forgot that I told myself that I don't ever want to do this again. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, like I got pizza at home. The next day I wake up after like 10 hours of sleep and I'm like, yeah, that was awesome. Like I'll do it again.
Yeah.
Funny how it
That's
goes.
one of I haven't had the privilege of being at the end of the Colorado Trail, but just from like social media and like articles on the internet, it seems like there's a distinct difference between finishing the Tour Divide in the middle of nowhere where you're lucky if one person is there to pick you up, versus Colorado Trail where the sense I get is a lot of, racers and people from the community will just come and celebrate your finish and have a beer or pizza or whatever. Yeah, is my perception kind of accurate there?
Kind of accurate. So I think Durango draws a little more people, and also time of day matters. Like I finished in the Waterton Canyon, who just like kind of like not as nice place as Durango. And my two poor friends who live in Denver, they set alarms starting at midnight to like wake up every hour to check where I am to pick me up. I was like, don't worry about it. Like, I'll sleep in a bivvy. And like, like when I finish, like, I'll sleep in a bivvy. Like, you can pick me up whenever. It doesn't matter. But they
Yeah.
were so sweet. So they were there at 5 a.m., even though like they had no idea when I would actually finish. And it was just them. But I think if it was like 1 p.m., that would be a different story.
Yeah. No, that's true. Timing definitely matters,
Yeah.
for sure. So going into this year, oh wait, I know. No, hold on a second. So you thought you'd never do it again, and that you made a post on Instagram, something to the effect. I think I might have wrote it down. Essentially, like questioning why you had signed up for this race again. It seemed like you had a little bit of self doubt, or just I don't know exactly what was going on, but I thought it would be worth speaking to, like where you were at in your head and why you ultimately decided to give it another go.
Yeah, so I did go on a tour before for 4 days or something, and like pretty instantly I was like, it's beautiful, and that makes me sad because I know it'll be like a lot harder. So like it wouldn't matter, like the landscape, because I would like not stop to eat as much. Like I can't like just stop and like look at the things, and I'd have to ride into the night. So I was like, why am I doing this? Like it's really hard. Like I've already toured this like prettiest area of Colorado Trail just like a week before. So that was my questioning, because I like to do new races for like just the novelty, and I don't know if I'm kind of the person who like would do races over and over again. So that was my questioning, and I still do think that I partially did it because everyone else was doing it. Not like, I mean, not great reason, but that was like worrying me, and I think it is kind of why I showed up. But once I was pedaling, though, like I just like it wasn't really an issue. I didn't feel bad, and I was tired in a good way, and I was having fun. Like just things worked out. Like, yeah, sure, maybe I was there because everyone was doing it and I felt like I had to be there, and I had time off, and like it felt like once in a lifetime opportunity to do like all three races, or at least try to in a year. Like it would be hard to like again, like I'd have to quit my job probably again, and that's hard. So that was the reason why I showed up, but I had fun, so I don't regret showing up.
It's an interesting year. Colorado Trail had a very strong field, and we have quite a few people this year that are going for Triple Crown. So, yeah, it's a really interesting year. It's more people going for Triple Crowns than any time I can remember. So it's kind of exciting, and now you're in that conversation too, with your Colorado Trail win this year.
It's the fear of missing out.
Oh, yeah, FOMO is real, right? All my friends are out there. Like you could be at home watching their dot and looking at their Instagram, or you could be out there with
Yeah,
them.
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get to a chance to meet Hannah Simon?
I
Do you know
did.
her?
She's super nice and awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's from Austin. I'm doing a podcast series with her because she had signed up to do the Triple Crown. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of just like follow her journey across, doing all 3 races. One thing that she did before Tour Divide was like go up to Montana and tour it for a week for 2 reasons. 1, to get acclimatized, and 2, to kind of soak in the beauty and like just enjoy riding her bike, so that when it came time to race, she wasn't feeling that FOMO of, oh, I don't get to stop for coffee, I don't get to look at the pretty trees or whatever. Did you find that to be helpful for you by getting that tour out of the way and kind of like, okay, I've enjoyed this, now I can put my head down and race it?
Yeah, definitely. And Tour Divide was similar too. I did. I think like so many of us biked to the start. I felt like we were like little migrating birds. North. I think Tour Divide particularly, maybe that was a little more. I like biked from my other race in Spokane to Banff. And like, yeah, kind of following Alexandra in her footsteps. We like had a fun time with Kyle Peterson in Fernie. So yeah, like I was just kind of like, let's hang out with friends while we're biking to the start. And that helped kind of like, and then when I was in Banff, I think I was there for 2 days, and I remember the feeling of like, I just want this to start. Like I'm tired of just bumming around town drinking coffee. Like I want to start. So that's a good feeling when you want the race to start.
Yeah. It's an interesting approach, and we're seeing a lot of riders. Yeah, whether they're doing like a little tour before or riding to the start of the race. I think Lael popularized that way back in the day, and a lot of people have do that, and it's a great way to kind of get yourself into ride shape and the right mentality, it seems like, to take on these big events.
Yeah, it is hard to show up to race, kind of couch to racing, even if you feel strong. Just my almost like kind of, not philosophy, but what I'm trying to accomplish is to show up a little tired, like not fully recovered, just so then I'm like, like I can eat my burritos because I'm not like trying so hard. When I try really hard on day 1, like I can't eat. I can sleep well. It usually takes me 2 days or 3 days to sleep well. Like I'm not blowing up. Like sure, maybe my day 1 is not as fast as if I was totally fresh, but it sets me up well for all the other days to not be like tired. It's just like a routine.
Yeah. It actually makes some sense. I've heard multiple riders talk about how, Sofian says he doesn't even get warmed up within, it takes 400 miles essentially before he feels like he's warmed up. And I've heard that echoed by other people as well, maybe not 400 miles, but just essentially it takes a while to get your body and your mind into the groove of what you're doing. And so you're kind of like jump starting that process a little bit and getting your mind right, getting your body where it needs to be and acclimated to big efforts. It makes a lot of sense. It wouldn't be what most people think when they think about like an athletic effort. But a 24-hour race or, a cross-country mountain bike race is much different than, 2,700 miles.
Yeah.
So
I can definitely show up to a day event and I would want to be rested, and like it doesn't matter how bad I feel the day after, but for things that are more than a week long, you have to care how you feel the day after your first day after.
Yeah, big time. And the day after that, and the day after that.
Yeah.
For weeks, at least on the Tour Divide. So going into, I'm interested to get your answer on this, because I'm curious what your goals were with this year's Colorado Trail. You didn't even know if you were going to do it. You were kind of like, why am I doing this again? Do you set goals for yourself? And if so, what are they? No goals.
I'm like really not. Yeah. I don't set goals because I don't know. I just don't want to be disappointed. I want to do like what I can do. Like maybe do my best, but I don't know if I set goals and I don't get them, like where does that get me? It's like nice when nice things happen, but it's okay when by bad things happen as in like, I don't know, if I'm not first or like somewhere in the back but finished, like that's fine. I mean, some people would say that's bad, but It's good to me. But also, like, if the mechanical happens that I can't fix, or like I get an injury, I like to give myself permission to quit and not feel bad about it. Like, at least I hope like I have it in me. So I also have like, I feel like if I focus too much on the goals and I don't achieve them, that might be a little more sad. But I'm also like, I'm not in a bike packing world. Like, I'm not, it's not my full-time job. It's my first year. Like, I kind of don't set expectations. Maybe later I'll have goals. Like if I keep doing the same races or more races. But for now, it's just like see what I can even do in the first place.
Do you have any goals, like in terms of like just have fun, finish? Like, do you set any kind of like mantras or any, what is your mindset essentially whenever you approach these big events,
I mean, yeah, it's hard. I think this year I am somewhat focused on doing my best and finishing. So, I mean, that is a goal. I suppose it just doesn't have numbers to it. But I think I need to like kind of think of why I'm doing all of this. Partially, there's a bit of like, I guess adrenaline after a race where like, like you feel so good, everyone's so nice, you eat all the food and sleep. And I think like that is nice. But in terms of like career, like that's, like biking is not really right now as a career. So like I don't have to ride certain races. I don't have to place. So that's not really like influencing how I ride. And so I do have to question like, why do I do those rides? Partially, yeah, it is like the community. Like it is kind of fun to get all the cheering messages and like know that like I'm representing like Oakland area, for example, because like I do get a lot of people like, I don't know you, but like I'm in Oakland. And like,
That's
it's so
cool.
exciting to like dot watch. So I do feel like I'm like kind of like doing this for other people as well.
Yeah. That's super interesting. And it actually was one of my questions is like, yeah, let me ask it. Why? And maybe you're still working your way through this because like you could just go tour, you could randonnée, you could just go ride on the weekend with your friends.
So I have why as to why racing versus touring. Because I think I just get bored and I do get that like mental stimulation out of I don't know. It's like, it is fun to see how far your body can go.
Yeah.
Like every new thing you do, you're like, oh, I am capable of this. And touring, it's like, I've done enough. And it's like, yes, it's nice to like eat food and stop for coffee, but like, I guess it doesn't give me like enough like good feelings. Like it's type 1 fun, and then I'm here in type 2 fun that is like more long term, like long lasting. Yeah.
You touched on, I think at the very beginning of our conversation, you said like you're interested essentially, I'm paraphrasing I think a little bit, but you're essentially interested in what your own personal potential is. And I think that's what attracts me to doing hard things. It's what attracts me just as a spectator and a fan of this sport is I'm super interested in what the human potential is and how far we can push that.
I do think that is probably my biggest like driving factor, just like curiosity of like what I can do. And there's probably not really a limit. Like it's kind of like a line that approaches some asymptote, but yeah, it's just every time I do something better and surprise myself, like it's exciting and it makes me want to do more, or like it makes me want to try something again to see if I could do better. So that was a bit of Colorado Trail. Like I knew I could do better, like equipment wise, like prepping my Achilles, like because I like more aware what I need to do for it to not to hurt. And then like, hiking up mountains, knowing the terrain. So all those things, like I know I can do better. And so I'm just curious what that better is.
Yeah, that I think that's the fun question mark. And speaking of puzzles, I mean, that's a huge puzzle that takes into account, equipment, your body, your mind, the terrain, the weather, and there's all these factors that, go into that equation. And, it's always an interesting puzzle to see how you're able to deal with that. For you, when you're racing, let's use the Colorado Trail, for example. How much are you, if at all, impacted by what other people are doing? When Lael's ahead of you, are you like, okay, I'm gonna go for her dot. She's sleeping. I'm gonna, what is your approach, and does that affect you at all?
Oh, I'm definitely racing. So if there's a carrot dangling, it doesn't matter if it's like any dot in front of me, like I'll
Yeah.
probably try to get to it. I mean, not to the degree where I'm making bad decisions. Like if I know I need to sleep and sleep is what I need to do to recover, I will sleep. But if there is a dot ahead of me, I do make plans like, oh, I'm good at hiking. Here's a really steep hike-a-bike. Maybe that's the thing I try on today to see like how much time I can gain. So yeah, I do make those decisions. But at the end of the day, again, I'm not that competitive. It's like if I tried and I still can't do it, well, they're better.
Yeah.
Like, and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I relate to your approach to racing very much. Like my girlfriend and I were talking, I did an ITT on a race that I host in East Texas. It's 400 miles and I DNF'd at like mile 340. And like, I was fine with my effort, but she was like, but you had all these goals and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but it's okay. Like, it's always there. Like, I'll just go back and do it again. Like, I'm not happy that I didn't finish, but I'm also like, okay with it. And I plan I'll go do it again and I'll do better, is the goal. And so I don't know. I really relate to your approach. It's like, I do want to go out there and do my best and see what I can do. But if you don't got it, you don't got it. And there's no reason to like beat yourself up over it. I'm not a professional racer. So,
Well, especially since I am doing well, it's like, I can't really ask myself to do more. Like, it's already nice. But like, if I don't know if it's second or third place, like it's fine.
That's pretty good, That's such a great perspective. I really like that. What does your training look like? How are you preparing at home, either on the bike or off the bike? Like, what are you doing to train for these big rides?
I live on a hill, like 1,000-foot hills, so I commute pretty much daily. So I have to do at least a really steep climb, and California is really steep. So I think my base level is just I move around on my bike to begin with and like have groceries and stuff. So there's that baseline. I do like climb and do weights, so that's like a different baseline. And then I do try to go on overnight like camping trips, not specifically to train. It's just like my life in general. Like and then randonneuring rides are really awesome. Like after Tour Divide, I did a 300K that kicked my butt. It's long. It's like 180 miles. I was like, why am I doing this right after Tour Divide? But then like before the race, I really do think it's very important to get a few days in biking. So like either biking to the start for Tour Divide. Cross Washington for me this year was a race that was like a training ride, and then biking to the start was like the recover, train more. That was intense, and I know I can't do that all the time. That's kind of a privileged way to be because you just have to have so much time off and like whatever your job is or responsibilities, like obviously you have to drop them to go ride that long. For Colorado Trail, that looked like the 4-day tour of the San Juans. And during those tours, I tried to bike kind of as fast, like break more, like I'd allow myself to stop and eat, but I'd still bike kind of and sleep, but I'd still bike all the time in between. So if there's a pass, I would try to like go up the pass fast and still have a lot of miles in a day. So that might look like maybe a little too intense right before the race, but that's what I need. I need to like tire myself out and just like kind of also mentally make myself a little more humble, because it's easy to start a race fresh, remembering all the nice rosy things from like previous times of like, oh, it's beautiful, it's going to be great. But in reality, it's just hard, and it doesn't matter how beautiful it is. Sometimes it's just hard. So like mentally that makes me just in the right mindset. That preps me for sleep well. It makes me for eating well. Like just being out before, like a week before.
Yeah. Perfect. Let's talk about your sleep strategy. What have you found works well for you, whether Tour Divide or Colorado Trail? I don't know if you've developed a sleep strategy, but what is your approach in general to that?
My sleep kit is bivy and sleeping pad and a really warm quilt. So I'm like warm in the bivy. And I find it very cozy, but my actual like time-wise sleeping, I need to sleep. If I skip sleep, like anything goes. Like I just don't know what I'll do. Like maybe I'll be fine, maybe I'm not. But like I'm just like afraid if Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I might like mentally break down. So I sleep between, like, if I sleep 4 hours, I feel pretty okay. 5 hours, I feel pretty good. So I try to like keep it between 4 and 5 generally. And then if I need to, if it's like the last day where there's some important like crux point, like less, like we'll do like 3 or 2.5, but I try to sleep. And actually on Colorado Trail this year, I was pretty tired by the end of day one. Like my legs were so sore and I was really worried. I was like, if this lactic acid will like stay with me, like it's going to be a problem. And then I slept for honestly, probably less than 4 hours at 12,500 feet. So like probably not good sleep. And then I woke up and I was like, I feel good. Like my legs are fine. There's no lactic acid. So that really, and then I was able to be fast the next day. And so Alexandra is kind of the same opinion because we were talking about it a few days ago. But I do think if you do sleep, you're actually faster, like than skipping sleep. And so I don't know what that balance is. Like for me, it's between 4 and 5 hours where it's sustainable. Like Tour Divide, I think it was roughly that. If I get that time range, then I feel fine. And so that's why I kind of try to shoot for. Colorado Trail is a little harder and trickier because it's just shorter, and so you can get away with a lot more things. Like you don't have to eat as well, you don't have to sleep as well. And so I did try something new this year. Like around Buena Vista, I didn't sleep. I laid down for maybe 45 minutes, but it wasn't like true sleep. And it was pretty crazy. I had a pretty horrible time. Like I had a normal first few days. I was like, this is good. I'm like consistent. And then when I didn't sleep the next day, I was like, this is pretty horrible. Like I do not feel like myself. This is like feeling like the blow up moment to me. Like I'm mentally like not doing great. But then as the day went on and I kept saying like, I'll just snap around the corner, like just do the swing, nap then, just do the swing, nap then. And I like never did. And then by the end, I got to the single track section. That's the last 50 miles. I was like, okay, I don't need to sleep. I just need to like get back. And at that point, I started to feel from bad to just like not myself, not in a bad way. Like I had a really good time, but it was very like out of body experience. Like I described it as like ego death, where I was like, I truly don't know who I am. I'm just here on the bike.
Yeah, that is a weird experience. I had that for the first time just like a month ago. I did a couple 100-mile ride, I rode through the night. And I mean, I wasn't even that tired or anything, so it's kind of interesting, but I don't know. I literally felt like I was watching my body ride a bike through like the terrain, and I didn't have any relation that I could like tangibly understand that like would put me back in my body. And that was like the first time that I was like, oh, is that what it's like when all these people are, is that the experience that all these people are talking about? I think that I touched on that. And it was such a surreal feeling because you're watching your legs go and the pedals are going up and down, and you're just like, I'm just floating through space and time right now. Like I'm not even here.
I did kind of feel I describe myself not as a risk taker. So on day rides, like I do worry about falling, and like sometimes I psych myself out too much, like depending on where we go, even though I'm like pretty good mountain biker. But on tours, I don't know why, I just never worry. I'm like, I can't crash. It's impossible. So more so than when I was like not running on no sleep in the middle of the night. I was like, nothing can happen. I can just blast down the single track. It'll be okay. So that was like another feeling. It's just like nothing can go wrong.
Maybe it gave you ego.
Yeah. Well, except I also didn't know like why I'm doing this. Just maneuvering the bike around. It was also a really warm and calm night. And I was convinced that I've never seen that part of trail ever, even though I did it the year before in daylight. But I was like, I've never been here. Like I just do not recognize a single thing. So I felt like I was on a different planet because I was like at this warm calm, like I don't know where I am. Also my phone died, so I couldn't see the big picture where I am on the map. So it felt like I was 5 miles away from the end and just going in circles because it's so disorienting. It's pretty wild.
I was having arguments with myself, like trying to figure out because I was on like a road / gravel ride, like not on trail. And so I was like, am I on pavement or gravel? was I just on pavement or gravel? Like what, you know, and I don't, and like in the moment, I'm like, this doesn't even matter. Just ride your bike. But like it mattered in the moment. I was just trying to figure out what surface I'm like riding on right now. Oh man, it was really, really interesting. So for your sleep, I'm just looking at track leaders, but it looks like you slept 3 times and then you had a really long push to the end.
That is true.
Okay, so you essentially had probably 3, 4 to 5 hour sleeps, and then you had a big push. So, how long is that big push at the end? How many miles is that?
Yeah, I think it was like 2:30-ish. I mean, I did lay down, but it really wasn't sleep.
Yeah,
like roughly 230 miles. And in my head, I was like, oh, it should get easier. It doesn't really like. It's a general downhill, but it wasn't that easy. My idea,
Right.
my thinking was like, well, the end is close. Like I could do this. Like, because I was thinking I was sleeping a little too much before. And actually, one time I overslept on Sargent Mesa. I overslept my alarm by like maybe hour and a half. And then Anna was really close to me, and I remember being like, "You can't sleep this much." And then, another night. Well, so another thing I started doing is I stopped blowing up my sleeping pad because it took too long. So just in my chamois, I just pull out my quilt and just like lean pine needles to save time. So I started doing that to the end, like at the end. And I actually like that strategy because you're so tired you can sleep anywhere and the quilt is enough to keep you warm.
Right.
Yeah.
Brett Stepanek leaves his helmet on and uses that as a pillow. Like it kind of elevates your head a little bit. And so, you were just on a little panel with Brett Stepanek. And Alexandra.
That. Yeah.
He mentioned that.
Yep. He mentioned exactly that.
Yeah. That's
crazy.
He's been on
I didn't realize he was riding with no dropper and fully rigid bike. It's crazy.
Wild man.
Yeah. I don't know if I could take advice from people who do that.
Good point. Yeah. Good point. I don't know if I want to listen to him either. So that final push, if track leaders is correct, you caught up to and passed Lael around 150 with around 150 miles left to go. So was your sleep strategy at all based on winning the thing, staying ahead of Lael?
A little bit of A, a little bit of B. Kind of like I mentioned before, I like overslept. I was like, I should try to sleep less. And I already was planning as like, well, I haven't really done a lot of races where I push to the end, and I do regret a little bit on Tour Divide not doing that because I should have probably pushed for the night, but instead I rode in the heat in the headwind when I like didn't need to. And so I think even going the race, I was like, the end, I should try like to skip and sleep in whatever capacity I can. But yeah, that it also lined up. It's like, well, if I did pass Lael, I guess it probably makes sense that I like try to push a little harder until I get tired. And I did get tired, but it was kind of too late. It was like the middle of the day, and I was like, I don't want to sleep.
Well, that is a really good strategy because oftentimes what we'll see, and if it goes wrong, is kind of like we were saying in the beginning. You push really hard. You're really pushing your boundaries on sleep, and then you have the potential of falling apart, which kind of ruins your race potentially. But it's an interesting game, right? This endurance game of like, what is my limit? Where are they? And there's only one way to find out, but the best place to find out is towards the end, I think.
Yeah. That's what that definitely was my strategy. Is like, if I'm not going to sleep, it's not going to be day one. It's going to be the last day. And on Tour Divide, it was kind of funny to observe because some people would not sleep on day one. I was like, what are you? I mean, like, clearly, like, I'm not them, and like, they probably know their bodies, but it's like, what are you doing? There's so much more.
Yeah.
Well, it's super. Good.
It's super interesting. I again, this is another conversation that keeps coming up about, how much sleep is the right amount, and is it better to get 4 hours or skip sleep altogether and just, make up those miles? And more often than not, what I'm hearing from other racers is that sleeping is faster, that you will make up that 4 or 5 hours with a fresher body. You'll feel better. Your lactic acid will have a chance to work its way out, and you'll be able to ride faster.
I mean, I think figuring out for each person what that number is, because I mean, for me, it's like 4 or 5. I think for others, it's maybe less. But yeah, I do also think that sleep is important. And strategically, maybe you could like skip it here and there, but like you gotta really know your body to do that.
Yeah.
It can't be a guessing game.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, a lot of times the only real opportunities to find out and play this game, quote unquote, is when you're in the actual race. Because like, when are you going to go ride 2,700 miles just like on a weekend, right? Like you're not. So these are the kind of the opportunities, it's like the testing ground as well as the race. I'm curious about, on your own personal journey of pushing your limits. And that last 230-mile stretch, what did you learn about yourself, your own personal limits, and do you think that pushing that sleep in the future will be something that you feel more confident or comfortable doing?
I mean, I wouldn't say like I haven't done that before. The Randoneering ride that I was mentioning, the 360 mile, I think that was probably a bigger, like no, like less sleep push.
Okay.
So, I guess what I learned there is like, yeah, it's kind of a gamble because I did feel pretty awful during the like heat of the day. But then it like transitioned into like I'm having a good time because I feel like I'm on drugs. And I don't know if that'll consistently happen. So I guess what I learned is like, yeah, what I did, like it was a gamble, but it worked, and it might work next time. But I still would say that I would continue my sleep as is, and then maybe if it's the end, like do this again. But yeah, I was regretting my decision when it was like, noon and I was on that road, like falling asleep, the detour. And it was hot. I was just like, I'm not having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. This is not fun. I'm not okay. Why did I do that?
Yep. And that felt like a blow up moment was coming up because I was like, I'm every time I race, I'm very cautious now because I know, like, from experience, I know that like I could blow, like things can change very quickly. You can go from I feel amazing to like this is not going well, and so I'm always cautious whenever like someone's like, oh, like you're doing awesome. I'm like, hold on, like there's still so many miles. So I'm like trying to manage so hard feeling good, quote unquote. Like I do actively try to feel happy. I remember Alexandra told me on like Tour Divide, we sent little memos to each other. He's like, it's okay to feel sad. I'm like, I know it's okay, but like it doesn't make me bike better. Like I'm not biking well when I'm sad, so I try to manage my emotions of like staying relatively like content. And so yeah, so then that moment when I didn't sleep, I was like, well, I think I did blow it. It worked out, but I was like, maybe like things will start hurting a lot. Maybe I'm like gonna fall in a ditch and fall asleep for 5 hours. Like I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, let's segue into my next question, which is if you had to do this year's Colorado Trail again, is there anything that you would do differently?
Honestly, I'm very happy with my run. What I would do differently. I mean, I think doing it in this direction again would help, just again in general, knowing expectations, that might make me a little speedier, but maybe I would bring, because I did make it to Silverton on time, and that was like a big question mark because resupplies are so limited. Maybe if I trust myself to do it just as fast, I would not bring so much food in the beginning and get it later. But then you still spend a lot of time at the store, like kind of planning that. Honestly, I feel good. I think maybe like train harder and be faster, but in terms of decisions that I made and like times I've slept and didn't sleep, that was good.
Yeah. It seems like, I mean, you had a really clean run. I mean, you got your 3 sleeps. You had a good push at the end. You weren't plagued with any mechanicals. And, I mean, overall, it sounds like a really clean run and good weather this year, too, right?
Great weather. The weather totally played. It would be nice to get under 5 days, and I was kind of trying. And I think the last section, I'd bring a little more battery light because the last section I was running a little bit on like the moonlight setting of my lights. So doing the last section in the day or having more light or power probably would have made me a little faster, it's like going under 5 days is definitely doable. And I could like shave off an hour and a half somewhere.
Yeah. We might have already touched on your low, but let's hit your highs and lows for Colorado Trail Race. High maybe is winning it and getting an FKT, but before that.
Yeah. No, actually the last section I keep talking about because it was so wild and like unlike anything I felt before. I think I like that was maybe my high. Another high was Johnny running into me at Leadville because like I like humans and like I was like trying to run away from Johnny and Johnny was trying to catch up to me. It's like a again friendly competition, but seeing him in
Sure.
Leadville this gas station was like really exciting. Just like another person because I really
Is
didn't
that
run.
Alexandra's partner?
Yes.
Okay.
Um yeah. It was I mean outside of a race it was also fun when I was doing the little tour. I ran into another racer, Mike. He's from Leadville. I'm not sure what his last name is, but it was really fun to like have another racer outside of a race when we were training. It was kind of the same feeling where like in the morning, you're like, oh, hello. And then like you pass each other. So I guess like people, I do enjoy that we're all doing this together. And there's no way that I would do well on the ITT because I feel like I like the aspect of, well, a bit of competition and like, you know, like trying to catch up to someone or trying to drop someone, but also like, it's so fun, like in the middle of the night to see all the lights. Like we're all are like trying to get somewhere, well, by somewhere on the same trail. It's like such a like fun human experience. I was really enjoying just that all of us are doing that at the same time.
I really like that imagery that you painted earlier in the conversation about like seeing all the lights at night, like traversing the trail like in front and behind you. And I think that's a really cool imagery. And speaking of ITTs, I'm not much of it. Like I did an ITT on my own route, and then I'm doing one in like 30 days on another route that I created. But I've invited people on this 475 one because I'm like, I would really like for someone else to be out there. It's I don't know. It's just not as much fun. I think like, I mean, I'm only speaking to my own experience, but I just felt like, I mean, the only thing I had to think about was myself, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's no one to chase. There's nobody else in there. I'm not going to run into anybody in the gas station. I'm not going to get to ride with anybody. And I like riding alone. Like I enjoy my solitude when I'm out there, but it's also really nice to just know that there's other people out on the course with you, you know?
I do like exchanging like a few words here and there. I mean that's how I feel too. It's not really motivating for me to be out there, especially racing if it's just me.
Yeah. There's something definitely to having other people there for me as well. So speaking of motivation, what motivates you? What motivates you? Let's say, your alarm's going off after 4 hours of sleep. What motivates you to keep pushing when you're sleep deprived and hungry? Like, do you know what, your internal motivation is, or what really like keeps you going and keeps you in it?
Well, for like waking up and going, it's like I did sign up for this competition and I do enjoy competition. So competition, like someone's going to catch up to me. Someone's going to pass me. So in terms of getting up and like taking little time is that, because overall time matters, but like it's kind of hard to grasp in the moment. So you kind of have to go off like, well, I'm like, we're all here. Like, yeah, we're competing against each other. Yes, we're friends, but that is what keeps me going. Just like trying to get ahead. In that situation, because races are fun. It's like you're testing your body, but you're testing your body along with everyone else.
Yeah, good answer. All right,
I got to figure out my whys.
I think you enjoy it. I think you enjoy the process. I think you enjoy the competition and learning, how tough you are maybe. It's, there's a lot of other people out there. I mean, it's still a very niche sport, but it's growing. And I think it's growing because people have these same question marks. They want to find out, hey, can I do that? Can I do that well? How far can I ride without sleep? These are question marks that we can't answer until we put ourselves in a situation to find out.
People ask like, well, why do people climb mountains? Kind of like, well, because they're there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Hang out
I'm
there.
super interested in human potential, and I'm fascinated by it. And I think that's at the core of what motivates me personally to pursue hard things and just be an interested spectator of the sport. I'm in awe of people that do this stuff. Um, I think this is a tough question to answer, but I'll ask it anyway. What what does it mean to you to not only win the Colorado Trail Race, but to be the FKT holder?
Um, Maybe it hasn't sunken in. It just feels like, I mean, it's awesome, and I think like maybe I'll wrap my head around it. But at the same time, it's kind of weird because yeah, like I came into this like spotlight that I didn't really expect, and I'm not sure if I like want to be in the spotlight. I just like want to ride, but maybe there are like expectations now, and maybe I'm making them up. But like, do I have to keep racing? Like the same thing, and if someone takes it, like, do I go for the FKT again? So yeah, it's awesome, but I haven't thought too much about it, I guess. But I'm a little weary of like, would I have pressure now to like have to do more or like perform better? And if I don't perform better, because it's not really my job, like what would people think? Like I don't think it really matters. This is like a new thing to me, like bike races and like just generally doing well. Like no, again, I know and I still like call myself a baby deer. Like I don't really know what I'm doing. But it's
Yeah.
weird that I have done well. So now like some random strangers like know about me.
Yeah. 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 Trust me, I know a little bit about that. Not from racing, but just, yeah, it's interesting to have like people out there that like just know and
Yeah.
are paying attention and they're watching. And yeah, I can relate to that. But I don't know. I feel like to answer your question, I know you weren't exactly asking it to me, but I think you get to do whatever you want to do. And if you like signing up for races, then you should. And if you just want to go on a bike tour, then you should probably do
Yeah.
that. But I
And I'm
doubt
sure
there's any.
that's how it's gonna be.
Yeah. I doubt there's any like pressure from like the community at large. I think people are, curious and excited. We're all fans of this sport. We're all interested in what, the potential is for humans again to go out there and do hard things and you're doing great, and so it's fun to talk about. But I personally really enjoy your like approach and kind of like a little, I don't want to use laid back in like a like in a bad way, like, but I enjoy your approach to it. And you're like, yep, I'm doing it. I'm trying my best and I'm doing well. And that's cool. But it's not my job. I'm just, I'm just doing this for fun. And that's great. I mean, I think it's something that I think is really cool about this sport in particular is that it really, whether we don't have many sponsored athletes, but there's some sponsored athletes out there that do this for a job. There's people who have full-time careers, who are full-time parents, who are younger, who are older. And it really does like break down those divisions and, on a long race like these, anybody can show up. I mean, granted, you have fitness and the equipment and everything, but anyone can get to a point where they can sign up and do well, which I think is part of what makes this sport really special. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't think you need to feel any pressure. I think you should just keep doing.
Probably self-created, if anything.
Yeah.
It's like, now I'm going to have a job. What's going to happen? Like,
what is going to happen? That's actually my next question. So we've kind of touched on it, but I'm curious, like, do you have aspirations of being an athlete in this sport? After all these good results, are companies calling you or DMing you at all? Like, is that something that you're even interested in, or do you just really want to, do whatever you want to do and pursue it in any way that you would like to without any kind of expectation or sponsor to make happy or whatever?
Yeah, I have to figure it out. I do feel like this is not gonna become like my main time thing. And I kind of approached this year as like, well, it's hard to do Tour Divide. I'll just like do Tour Divide. I've had to like, it's kind of a good transition with my job to like quit it. It's been a while. So I was like, it's a once in a lifetime. But now it's becoming like, well, you did well, so maybe you should continue. But I'm still gonna have a job, and so we'll see how they take. Like, I'll try to see how much I can actually ride. My guess is going to be not Tour Divide every year, but more like Kenai 250, like Arizona 300, like more like shorter. Like you only need a few days off. I think in terms of like what I will be doing, my life is not going to change because I've already been biking a lot and like on weekends go on trips and stuff. And like that has been my training and probably will continue being my training until I get very tired of biking. But it's been 7 years, so probably not going to get tired of it. So yeah, I feel like the races will be shorter and I don't really sponsor wise. I don't know. I mean, I could get some things, but now I'm worried. It's like, well, if I do have sponsors, then there's pressure to show up because, like, if I get a bike or whatever and just don't do races because I'm busy with work, like, I'm assuming that's not how sponsorships work. So yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to figure it out. It's not like the entire industry is like, yeah, like let's get you stuff and you don't ever have to work. So like obviously the case for almost anyone. And for plans, like I already have like plans for next year, like a few bike races, not concrete. And again, I haven't started my new job, so who knows, but it'd be fun to try something new, especially out of the country, like the Silk Road sounds fun. And I speak Russian, so I feel like it's kind of fun to go somewhere where I could like read and talk to people.
Dude, that would be a huge advantage. Yeah.
Yes. And it's, sorry, a side topic, but it's funny for every race you kind of need to acclimate. So Colorado Trail, it's like, elevation, Arizona Trail, heat. And I feel like Silk Mountain, it's like food. You have to go there, like throw up a few times, get used to it, and then go.
That's such a good observation. Yeah. It seems like not everybody, but a lot of people have stomach problems. So that's a great observation. Go ahead and get your stomach acclimated in that race. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think you got a great handle on it. It's, I guess, I don't know. It's got to be fun to, have these things in your mind that you're like thinking about, like have these potential options or whatever. But yeah, at the end of the day, hopefully you're out there just riding your bike and having a good time and enjoying it. And that, that's been your secret for success so far. So, anyone who would want to,
my secret to success.
Her superpower is low expectations. Just find a sponsor that also has low expectations and it'll be a perfect fit.
Yeah, perfect.
I mean, honestly, like, Chumba's relationship with Alexandra, they've been partners for like a long time. And I know Vince and I know Alexandra, and I don't want to speak to them too much, but I've talked to Vince, the owner, and I mean, they just want to support Alexandra. Like, it's not like a results thing. Like she needs to go and do X, Y, Z. She didn't even have social media for years before, and so I think that's just a good example. And I think it kind of speaks to this community where, if a sponsor was going to work with you, I bet there's companies out there that just want to support you being you, right? That's the real story. It's like not you being number one, not you doing X, Y, or Z. Like it's let Katya be Katya and do her thing. The same way Alexandra does, she's a great example, I think, of another person who just, it's kind of like carved out a nice path for herself. It seems, again, as an outside perspective looking in.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is like I probably actually have all the bikes that I need now, thanks to Jackson giving me his bike. But usually that's like the biggest like limiting factor because like it's hard to drop like $6,000 on a bike for every race. I mean,
and travel expenses and like leaving your like time off work. I mean, it adds up.
It was expensive.
Yeah. It wouldn't hurt anyone's feelings to have a sponsor. I mean, I can imagine just like offsetting some of the costs, not even like being, making money. It's just like, man, it's a huge sacrifice financially, time wise, gear wise. It's, that's the biggest limiting factor is the expense that comes into it. But anyone with the time off and all the equipment, if you're willing to put in the time to training, it's an accessible thing. All right. Well, What's next? Is Arizona Trail next? Do you have anything planned in between now and then?
Between now and then, no. Well, maybe like small things around, like there's a local like Tahoe day, not even a race, just like a fun event that you can do fast. Probably just maintain. So yeah, Arizona Trail is the only like scheduled thing. Honestly, not even that scheduled because again, I haven't started my job, but they're aware. Like when I was like getting hired, I was like, so there's this thing in October. And they're like, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so Arizona Trail. Maybe I'll like try to go somewhere, maybe even stay with Kirsten, like just to get used to the heat. The nice thing about my job is I can work remotely, also kind of a nice little bonus. So I try to like go to a place, if it's Colorado Trail, be at high elevation. If it's Arizona Trail, then like be in the heat. And then just maintain, just like ride around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did AZT before you ended up completing the 300. What kept you from finishing that one? Was it just the heat? And a follow-up question on that would be like, what are your plans to, make it to the end this time to overcome the thing that kept you from finishing?
So that's the most destroyed I've ever felt in my life. I mean, it was my first bikepacking race, so there's a lot of issues. Like I broke my leg skiing like not even a year before, so it was like not fully healed. So I didn't feel like I could just like fall on it accidentally.
Same
so
one you broke running or different one?
No, I have both my legs have titanium rods. Different story.
Oh my God.
This one, yeah, but this one's more recent, like less than 3 years ago.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. So my leg was like not super healed. My bike was like not super, like it was a hardtail with like not really good suspension. I had to sit on my seat a lot because of my leg, like just too much force on it if I was standing. My back tire, I think, was a recon race and I was like fishtailing and everything. So I just like didn't know, like my equipment wasn't well fit. I changed the seat last minute for the race, which you're not supposed to. It was like a leather seat, and the side of it, because the leather is like taut, so it's like kind of sharp, like just cut into my thigh on downhills. Like I just had raw skin on like my legs.
Nice.
My hands, actually I still have hand issues, but then like I couldn't even shift anymore by the middle. I had ergon grips, and I actually learned that I hate ergon grips, the ones that like put force, well, that specific type of grip where like you put force on your palm, like it's lighter. And like I just know like I need normal grips that don't have weird shapes to them, and so I couldn't shift anymore from nerve damage. Just my body was destroyed. Yeah, so lots of excuses, but I think more than anything is probably because it was my first race and I just didn't know what I was doing. Also went out too fast and then kind of blew up. The heat I'm not that familiar with. I don't know how much it played a role on the overall, like me feeling poorly. But yeah, combination of a lot of things. And then by the end, I was just like, 300 is good enough. Like, and also I think I took like 14 days off work, and I just like knew there's no way I'm gonna like finish even in probably 14 days, or if I do, like I can't get back home or like rest. And it's so remote, so yeah, if you're not feeling great, kind of could be dangerous out there in the heat.
Oh yeah.
What else happens? So yeah, for this year, my plans are like try to like go to Arizona early on, again to acclimate a little to like just the weather. The bike I trust this time. Like I just did Colorado Trail, and I don't think Arizona Trail is too rumblier than Colorado Trail. So like I trust the bike, like the tires. My leg is not broken.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And you'll have better grips.
Yeah, better grips. Oh, I learned like ESI grips is like what works for me to not feel too bad. I'm actually really excited for the Grand Canyon part. That was like what I was really looking forward to. I feel like I am actually a pretty okay hiker. I didn't think I was, but that was because my bike was too heavy before. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm excited for that part. And I'm generally excited for the northern parts because it's colder, like more like pine trees and that. So yeah, just gotta survive the 300, which I have seen before. It is hard. And then yeah, try not to blow up. That's like always my goal. Just one day at a time. get sleep.
Give me some advice. I'm only doing an ITT of the 300. So what would be your advice to a first timer doing the 300
I vaguely
EZT?
remember it. So yeah, trust your butt. Like, like don't start changing things on your bike last minute. But long pants, long shirt, even though it's hot, the plants are really mean. I had like a crazy rash from some grass and I couldn't sleep the first night. Yeah, the plants are just mean. Like kind of the joke is if you're gonna fall, you have to think of like, do you fall right or do you fall left? Like which is worse? Definitely bring a filter that you can back filter. I'm probably going to bring 2 filters because my filter got pretty destroyed pretty quickly. It took so long to filter water. Like really know your water. I didn't really know my water that well. Johnny, Alexander's partner, gave me a bit of his water going up. At that point, I like knew I was like, I don't care if it's against the rules because I'm probably not going to finish.
Yeah.
I finished like way in the back, but he gave me a bit of water, which I was thankful for. But we were going up to the road on the Mount Lemon, and the campsite said like it had water. But then I was asking Alexander, like, is there water there? She's like, no, the closest water is on top of Lemon, which is like 4,000 feet of climbing. And I had like half a liter left. It was nighttime, so it wasn't like hot, and I probably would have made it, but I was like terrified.
Yeah.
Also all my electronics died because I did have a dynamo hub, which I will not have this time because it's like to me, I mean, I had Sans. I know different dynamo lights do different kind of like lights, but mine was just flickering, so it wasn't useful.
Yeah.
And then it didn't charge any of the cache batteries the entire day. So by the end, everything was gonna die. I was like, I can't follow the trail. So the next day, going up the pavement, I connected my Garmin directly to the hub. So it was like flickering, but it was charging like barely. And until I got to the top, and then I spent like 5 hours charging everything, which at that point I was, again, just trying to survive.
Yeah, I think the dynamo hubs just don't work as well on like CT or AZ you're just not maintaining a high enough average speed to work for most of them real well. What about tire size? What do you think you're going to run on the AZT?
Probably the same as Colorado Trail. So I had both Recons, front and back. The front was 2.6 and the back is 2.4, which actually I can't fit anything more than 2.4. The reason I picked 2.6 this time is because I no longer had full suspension. So that was like my compromise. Like, let's have a bigger tire in the front because last year for Colorado Trail, I ran a full suspension of 2.4s. So that was like my compromise.
Yeah.
And then the back tire I had XO Plus, just a heavier, thicker tire. For Arizona Trail, I'm like, now I'm kind of thinking maybe I want the front tire to be XO Plus too. I'm running Maxxis, so it's their terminology. Just because the plants are so mean. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably the same tire size at least.
Yeah, so that big Hanzo, I'm pretty sure that's a hardtail mountain bike with front suspension. Yeah.
Hardtail.
Cool.
Like 120 travel, probably 120, 130.
Yeah. So you excited to get back out on the AZT and give it another run?
Still cautious feelings. I won't say like I'm like jumping with excitement, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Well, no pressure. I'm gonna heart your dot on the track leaders when you're out there, but no pressure. Just have a good ride.
It goes all the feelings that you have before the race. I feel like they're like kind of like become something else once you start. Like usually, like they dissipate whatever worries I have. So I'm hoping that will be the case.
Yeah.
I am excited. I am really excited for the Grand Canyon. So I want to get there this time.
Yeah, what a cool race. I mean, how many times do you throw your bike on your back? And I think it's 26 miles. You have to hike through the Grand Canyon with your bike on your back. So, I mean, how cool is that? Mm-hmm. Well, awesome. I appreciate it. It was really great to talk to you. I was just glued to my tracker anytime that I could and watching, and that push you put at the end was fucking awesome. It was just incredible. So, congratulations.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, here to provide dot watching entertainment.
Yes, for all your dot watching entertainment needs, just follow Katya. Well, thank you very much. Enjoy your day. Hopefully you're getting some rest, and I guess you get to start training for the next one. How far away are we? We're August, September. So we're like
Month and a
2
half.
months away?
Yeah,
A
2
month and a
months.
half?
Yeah, it's gonna be dark. That I do remember.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's going to come up. So, yeah. Well, good luck with the Colorado, or good luck with the
Sounds good.
AZT, and congratulations on the Colorado Trail. And again, been a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. And again, a special shout out goes to Katya. I love all the people. I love the athletes that do this sport and all the people that do this sport. She just has the most laid back and kind of thoughtful approach to bike packing, and it's really fun. It's awesome to see, and it shows again that that anybody can do this. Anyone. I think the future of bike packing is very bright. And I think we're going to continue to see people surprise us. And that's cool. And that's exciting. And okay. So for next week, I have a chat with a guy named Philip Crosby. I tracked him down at his farm in Asheville, North Carolina. I found out about Philip from a book that I read called To Shake the Sleeping Self by Jedediah Jenkins. And that book is about Jedediah's bike tour from Oregon all the way down to the southernmost terminus of South America. And on that journey, he had a friend go with him. And in the book, the guy's name is Weston. And I was really interested in this Weston character. And so I tracked him down. And it turns out his real name is Philip. And so we had a chat at a fire on his property. It was morning. It was beautiful. The weather was nice. We had coffee and we had a nice chat. And that episode is coming out next week. So if you haven't already, I recommend reading or listening to Shake the Sleeping Self by Jedediah Jenkins. You don't have to read the book to be able to enjoy the episode. I tried to conduct it in a way that anyone can listen to it, but certainly if you have read the book, you'll have a better context and understanding of some of the things that we're talking about. So, all right, well, that's it. Thank you so much for being here today. It's always a pleasure. Until next week, you know what to do. Go ride your damn bike.
It was the middle of the night. You grabbed your knife and you held it tight. The sounds of beasts kept you awake. The sounds they made kept you afraid. In the morning, you packed your bike. Memories forgotten from the previous night. You rode faster than ever before. Was it your imagination or merely folklore? Fear turned into strength as you pushed further. Every pedal stroke stronger and firmer. Your bike feels weightless, your legs aren't tired. You think to yourself, just a few more miles. Bikes.